This is your flat earth redeemer of ancient boundaries, and you can call me crazy, but I am fully convinced without a shadow of a doubt that the earth is flat and motionless, and I'm going to prove that to you here today with just a few different observations. And you may say why. For one thing, the reason why I'm doing this is because the Bible says to test and to prove all things, and the Bible also says to have nothing to do with the fruitful deeds of evil, but rather expose them. I believe that is my purpose here today. So I'm going to illustrate on how the earth is not a sphere flying through an endless space. First illustration, I got this globe. Now I remember very first being introduced to a globe in kindergarten. The very first thing that I remember thinking was if you walk to the bottom, you would fall off, okay? It didn't make sense to me. This idea, when I was very first introduced to it, something just didn't set right with my spirit. But children, especially at the age of kindergarten, we're so quick to believe anything. We'll believe anything, especially if it's coming from adults or teachers. But they say, well, you don't fall off because of gravity. Oh, you mean gravity, the force that's holding and sucking millions and millions of pounds of water to the earth. And it's pulling it all towards the center. All these millions of pounds of where if you lift the water up, it would fall back down and smash and crash down. But yet a little minnow can swim wherever it wants in the water, never getting pulled down with ease. Or a small butterfly can just flap its little wing and cruise up in the air. Where's the gravity there? Or smoke appears to rise and go straight up. Well, how come gravity isn't pulling that down? Gravity isn't real. That's just a side note. But let me go ahead and get to this illustration. I remember being told in school that Earth does a full rotation, 360-degree rotation every 24 hours. Now, if you got that right, then you're pretty smart. Now, the problem with this is if Earth rotates in 24 hours, 360 degrees, that means in 24 hours, the Earth will turn a full 360 degrees and be at the exact same point. The problem with this. Let me show you the problem. If this tennis ball is the sun, and we are on this side of the sun, you can see if the sun's directly overhead here, then we would be experiencing noon. This would be noon, midday. The sun would be directly overhead where we are. Okay? Every 24 hours, we know the Earth rotates to the east. So every 24 hours, then another 24 hours, then another 24 hours, then another 24 hours. At the end of every 24 hours, we are facing the exact same direction as a planet as a whole. Now the problem with this is 6 months later, we're on this side of the sun. And if Earth continued to rotate 360 degrees every 24 hours, then 6 months later, 12 p.m. noon would actually be flip-flopped and it would be 12 a.m., midnight. If the Earth revolved a full 360 degrees every 24 hours. This just doesn't make any sense, folks. It just doesn't make any sense at all. You say, okay, well, we got all these pictures of Earth. Listen, I don't have a problem what size or what shape the Earth is, okay? This is my point. If what NASA and what they're telling us is true, then their evidence would not look like this. Now, these are two globes taken from NASA. Okay, you got the larger one right here. This one was taken in 2012, and I believe this one here was taken in 1978. Look at the size difference of the continent of North America. Okay? The sphere of the ball is the exact same size. So how is it that the continents and the proportions thereof are completely distorted and completely different from the other? If what they're telling us is true, their information would not look like that at all. Now, a quick note, back to this ball, is the Earth is rotating to the east. Therefore, flights leaving from New York to LA should be much shorter than flights leaving from LA to New York, because flights leaving from LA to New York is having to follow the rotation of the Earth. But flights from New York to California are going against it, therefore it would be a much shorter flight. Yet you can book these flights yourself and they're the exact same to the minute. Or think about this, how you can have a hot air balloon take you up from the ground. It'll take you straight up in the air. You can be up there for 1, 2, 3, 10, 12, 20 hours. And then come directly back down and land in the same exact spot you were. That's proof that the earth is motionless. All observations of earth prove that the earth is motionless. There is no evidence whatsoever. You cannot create a scientific experiment and you cannot show any movement of the earth. There is none. Every observation proves to a motionless earth. If you don't believe me, there's people out there who they've shot cannonballs straight up into the air, and the cannonball usually will land around by close to the cannon. But they've even got it to where after they shot the cannon up in the air, the cannon came back down and landed in the cannonball. What does that mean? Listen, that is very simply, that is truly motionless earth. It's motionless earth, okay? By observation alone, the earth is flat. If the earth were a ball at 25,000 miles in circumference, it's 24,900 miles, so nearly 25,000 miles in circumference. That means in 25,000 miles, you go all the way down and all the way back up, okay? That means that at every straight distance, there'd be a noticed curve. A curve. Things when you're on a plane, flying a plane, buildings far in the distance should be leaning away. They should be leaning away. You would be able to see the curve of the earth. The higher up you go, the further down you'd have to look for the horizon. But the horizon is always rising. That only happens on a flat earth. Now, you can check this out right here. This is the Chicago skyline taken across Lake Michigan, from Lake Michigan. And I believe this was 62 miles across the lake. Now, 62 miles. You should only be able to see the very, very, very top, tippity top of one of these buildings. But you can see the entire structures of the entire skyline of the entire city. If Earth were a ball at 25,000 miles in circumference, this is physically impossible. It's just not possible. By observation alone, the world is flat and motionless. Here's another picture. This is the city of Charlotte, North Carolina, and it can be seen from Grandfather Mountain over 100 miles away. These are just two illustrations I wanted to give you about how, and there's many more that are much larger than 100 miles distance away. But this is physically impossible on a ball. It's just not possible, folks. It's not possible at all on a ball. Another thing I would like to point out to you guys is the sun. Here's pictures of the sun shining through the clouds. Now, we've all seen this throughout our daily lives, or maybe not daily, but on a regular basis, if it's a cloudy day and there's holes on the clouds, we will always see this effect of the sun. Now, what's so interesting about this is, if you know the part on the ground, the distance between where this light hits and where this light hits, and you know the two distance of them, then using simple geometry, you can figure out the height of the triangle or the height of the sun, okay? The sun is not 93 million miles away. It would never give this effect if the sun was 93 million miles away. Now, truly, what people say is, that's because the sun's 93 million miles away, but once it hits our atmosphere, the sunlight will come in and hit our atmosphere, and then at our atmosphere, it'll give that effect. But no, listen, if Earth is a sphere, then the atmosphere around us is also a sphere, meaning it is a convex lens. Now, that's so important to understand, because if you have a convex lens like this, and you have light shining through it, every time you have a convex lens, which would be the atmosphere of the Earth if it's a ball, these rays here that touch the atmosphere come to a point. Okay, this is the way magnifying glass works, where you can burn ants, because all the rays go to that center point. That's because it is a convex lens. Now, the only way that light does this, through a lens. As scientists would like to tell you, it's through the atmospheric lens that we see this phenomenon. The only way we get that phenomenon is when it's a convex lens. And the light comes through here. Then, when it hits this kind of lens, then the light would splatter out like this. But indeed, Earth cannot be a sphere and have convex lens around it. It's just not possible. So for that being true, that these lights, the rays of the sun, very simply prove by our own simple geometry that the sun is close. The sun's close. Now let me show you a big problem that I have with the heliocentric model. Okay, heliocentrism means that Earth revolves around the sun. It's a sun worship, where the sun is the universe. Now, let's say this is the sun. Sun. Here's Earth. Okay, there we are. Earth wobbles, Earth rotates, and we travel around the sun. Now, in 1 year, we go all the way around the sun. I want you to make a note of this. It is 584 million miles we've traveled in 1 year around the sun. That's just around the sun. It's an even enormous rate, I'll get to that in a second, that the sun travels across the galaxy. Now, if this is the way it works, which is the way we're taught, the sun is directly overhead us when we're right here. That'd be noon. Now, as Earth rotates, it would start to be nighttime. Once we get to this point, nighttime, we would be facing this way. So our night sky is when the back of the Earth is towards the sun. Therefore, our night sky is this view that we see. We see Orion's belt. We see the Big Dipper. You see the Little Dipper. All these different star constellations. The problem is 6 months later, we're on this side of the sun. Our night sky is now this side of the universe. We are still seeing the same exact stars. Not only the same exact stars, but in the same constellations. They've never changed. Listen, the constellation of the stars have never changed once. Not at all. In thousands of years, ever since we've been keeping track of the stars. The stars in our sky has never moved. We never see new stars appear. Their constellations never change. Now get this. Get this, folks. As I said, we travel around the sun 584 million miles in 1 year, okay? That's just what we travel around the sun. Now, keep in mind, the sun is traveling throughout the Milky Way galaxy, okay? In the past 20 years, if this is the Milky Way galaxy between my hands, in the past 20 years, Earth has traveled with the sun from here to here, okay? Now, in this little distance, we have traveled trillions of miles. Truly, trillions of miles. And yet all the stars are exactly the same. I mean, if we traveled trillions of miles in a universe that has trillions and billions of stars, if that was true, we would see all different kind of stars, and the constellations would constantly be changing and never the same. Never the same. Something that's quite interesting about stars, here's a picture that I took, snapshotted from a video. There's a bunch of videos you can do online. What I would challenge you guys to do is to YouTube, when you're done watching this, go ahead and YouTube stars. And if you make sure you don't get something out by NASA, because, well, if you do, read the description first, and it'll say CGI or computer-rated image or a video that was generated in a computer. Okay? There's thousands of videos online that show common people using telescopes and zoom in on stars. And this is a screenshot of a video. These light rays you see here, it's constantly moving, constantly changing. The stars are literally light behind water. It almost looks like the bottom of a pool, okay? Now, the Bible says that the stars are in the firmament that separates water from water, okay? Why do stars twinkle? Why do stars twinkle? It's because of the water. It's light shining through water. Listen, you can go there and see this for yourself. The stars are not what they're claiming to be. They're just simply not what they're claiming to be. Let me ask you guys this question. Does the moon rotate on its axis? You know, what surprised me is a lot of people who believe that we revolve around the sun don't even know this. That yes, the moon revolves on its axis. Well, how can we never see any different side, the different side of the moon? We only see the one circle of the moon. Sure, it'll spin, but we never see a different side. If it was a sphere, we'd be able to see a different side. Now, imagine this. This is what they say. Earth, as we know, rotates once every 24 hours. Now, the reason we don't see any different sides of the moon is because the moon is rotating in complete opposite direction as Earth. Therefore, we always see Earth's rotating this way and the moon's rotating this way. Therefore, we only ever see the one side of the moon. Now, come on, guys. If we cannot be that gullible to believe something so crazy, okay? That makes no sense. It makes no sense. Every day we see the sun and the moon and the stars travel and revolve over us. We see it by our own observations. That's what we see. Stars travel around us. The moon travels around us. And not only do they travel around us that we see, but the stars, sun, and moon are all on the same clock. They're on the same time. They're on the same schedule. Okay? That's huge. That's huge. If Earth were a ball spinning through an endless universe, just out of a big bang boom, there's no way that all our stars in the sky and the sun and the moon would be on the same time schedule, okay? Meaning every day they do the same thing. Every year they go back to their original spots, okay? Not only do the sun and moon go back to their original spots, but they travel the same path in the sky. Literally the same sky road. They're on the same path. That's why there's an eclipse somewhere on Earth twice a year. Every year you can time it out to where it's going to be to the exact minute. They're on a time schedule. If the Earth were just out of a big bang, boom, and it's an endless universe, is the only reason why an endless universe exists is only to further explain the Earth being created from a big bang. That's why the endless space is there. It's not reality. It's not real. These are just a couple observations that I wanted to give to you guys. Here's one thing I want to show you is this book here. It's called The Greatest Lie on Earth, Proof That Our World is Not a Moving Globe. I challenge you guys to read this book. This book is astronomical because it not only proves without a shadow of a doubt that the Earth is flat and motionless on 50 different levels, but it furthermore explains who's behind it and why. Very good read. I want to point this out. I also challenge you guys to check out something called lunar waves. Lunar waves, okay? What are lunar waves? Lunar waves is where you can video the moon and see the whole phase of the moon. And there's a wave of water that comes all the way up from bottom to top of the moon. There'll be a couple of them. There's a guy on YouTube, his name's Crow777. I gotta give a shout out to him because he's done so much as far as recording these lunar waves and getting them out here for people to see. One thing I would like to say is he likes to think that the moon is a hologram, and I would argue that the lunar wave is not there because of a hologram, but it is there because of the waters above, and it is in the firmament. Therefore, it is the waters above that we are seeing in the lunar waves. Either way, the moon is certainly not what they're telling us, and you certainly wouldn't be able to land on it. And I talk to people all the time that say, yeah, I've done my research on the moon being a hoax. There's no way they landed on the moon. If you guys listen, if you do any research at all as far as the moon landing being a hoax, it is so clearly proven that they've lied to us and cheated the whole thing. But my point is this: if NASA's lied to us about one thing, how well can you trust them about anything else? You just can't. You can't trust them. They're not telling us the truth. So I challenge you guys to research the flat earth. As Rob Skiba would say, I research, meaning I research what other people have searched. Okay, I want to challenge you all to do the same thing. One last illustration I have before I get off here. This is a infrared thermometer. This thing here tells you the surface temperature of wherever this laser beam hits. Okay, for instance, right here, my head is showing 94 degrees. but the wall back there is showing 80 degrees. 93, 94-ish. 80 degrees. Okay, this check tells you the surface temperature of wherever this beam is hitting. Okay, I bought one of these because I wanted to do my own observation as far as moonlight is concerned. Moonlight is indeed always at least 3 to 4 degrees colder than the shade. Now, if the moon reflects the sunlight, then it would continue to have the same exact principles. It would have the same nutrients in the light. It would do the same thing, meaning we know if we're standing outside on a hot summer's day and it's very, very hot, the quickest way to get cold is to go stand in the shade because the shade is cooler than sunlight. But see, the funny thing is in the moon, it's exact opposite. And if you guys don't believe me, you can link me up on Messenger or on Facebook. We can get together. You can come to my house. I can come to your house. We can meet in the park. We can do these observations ourselves. Or you could go to Amazon and buy an infrared thermometer for like 15 bucks. Get it delivered to your house. And then you can do your own observation. The moonlight is indeed 3 to 4 degrees cooler. That's just my observations. I've seen people online saying that they've got it to where it's 10 degrees cooler than the shade. It's 2 different lights. There's 2 different lights. 2 great lights in the sky. This is my video I have for you. I tried very hard to keep it short. So once again, this is your Flat Earth Redeemer of Ancient Boundaries. I challenge you to stand at the crossroads and consider which way you will take. Take the ancient road and believe what all the ancients believed. And get back, redeem the ancient boundary that our fathers had. Truly in the Word of God. Okay, what we got to realize on this flat earth is that we are on the chessboard. We are on the chessboard. Everything we say and do matters. There's no such thing as joking. If you said something, you said it. Whether you thought you were joking, it doesn't matter. You said it. Everything, we are on the chessboard. Everything matters. God is directly ahead of us, above us, directly above us, looking down on us. That's the biggest part about Flat Earth is it lets you get an understanding, a realization of where God is. And your purpose, your life's purpose, that's why it's so big. And the last thing I'm going to say is this. Flat Earth is so big because it truly exposes the lies of the institution. And Flat Earth alone can bring down the entire establishment by itself. By itself, folks. If you do any research in this at all, you too will be fully convinced, absolutely without a shadow of a doubt, that the Earth truly is indeed flat and motionless. Why are you so worried about this, Corey? Listen, truly, truth alone is worthy of all of our devotion. Truth. Thanks. Think about